Okay, we'll get started here. Lunch is going to be about 11:45, and basically we're going to have a working lunch. So lunch will be outside the doors here. So once you get,
Go out the back door to the buffet.
okay, the powers to be say go out the right door.
You got it. You're right. You're right.
One of the things I just brought up here is because I'm using Dashlane, and a lot of people say Google's better than Internet Explorer or whatever, and I've got it set up on both. You can see I've got set up here that I can go into specific accounts just by clicking this. And so if I just go and click on this, I'll use my Great Courses. And so it brings up the deal, and of course it says you want to sign in. So if I sign in, come on, bloody mouse. And it says, yeah, okay, we're ready to accept you to sign in. You see it's filled in all that information. It's filled in my email and my password. So all I need to do now is just go over and click sign in. I don't have to be typing all that stuff all the time. This particular, if you're interested in education, this is a good company. It's called the Great Courses. It's taught by all college professors, whatever. And I just finished one. Actually, I'm still kind of working on it. It's called the, where'd you go? Come on, load her up. No, I just have to click on my digital library. No, this is they have a couple there's like 700 or 800 courses that they have.
I got one on photography.
Yeah, and this one I'm doing here is understanding the inventions that changed the world. And it's like 36 lectures. This guy is out, I don't remember where he's at. So I've got how the stock market works, brief history of the world, mathematics of games, Americans. Well, the thing about it is that usually I'm watching this when I'm sitting on the beach. So yes, I don't get out much. I'm gonna have to come down to your part of the world and do. Okay, the reason I put this next section in here, section 2, on the Affordable Care Act, because the primary reason was this year we're going to get potentially 3 forms: 1095A, 1095B, 1095C, etc. So the question is, do you know where they're coming from and why they're being issued? So that's all we're doing here, is to let you know where they're coming from. How many people do payroll? Have you considered, basically if you have an employer that has over 50 employees this year, they're called ALEs, you must issue the 1095s for all their clients. Are you ready to do that? Have you found a program to do that? Has anybody found a program to do that? What do you?
AMS has an add-on.
Okay. I haven't looked and see whether or not Tax Tools has it or whatever. But you have to be aware of that, because currently it's everything over 50. Next year, they're going to drop it to 25 or 10 or whatever. So all I'm suggesting here is that you have to be aware that some of your clients, even if they're only 5-10 man shop, may be asking you to provide those. And yeah, you can say we're required to do it this year, but the point is that you need to be thinking about it.
So
So the question is, what are we gonna do when the tax client says I didn't get one? Do you want the IRS answer or do you want my answer? Yeah, the IRS answer is, well, you can't do the return until you get it. My answer is, in fact, one of the things I'll talk about is I use the miscellaneous codes on the first screen. And one of the things I've put in there is who is providing the insurance. Okay? So the thing about it is, if I go and collect health exchange, I know they have to get a 1095A. So you better be looking for that. And if it's a company provided, well, how big is your company? Well, you should have gotten that. And like you say, everybody loses stuff. And so it's like, well, you better check and see whether or not you got that, if, especially if it's a larger employer, And again, the only reason I'm bringing this up is I know that people are doing payroll and they haven't thought about that issue yet. Merle.
You should be having either an A or a B for everybody.
The comment is that you should be receiving an A or B from everyone. Because if they have insurance, the insurance company is supposed to be providing. Now again, back to your comment, where is it? Well, it depends. Yes?
What about the people that are on medical assistance in Minnesota care?
They're supposed to get a D because it's still being managed by
They're supposed to.
UCare or whatever.
Yeah. So the question was, what about people who are on UCare or stuff like that? Yeah, they still should be getting a B.
Okay.
Now, again, a lot of employers are not,
TRICARE, the military stuff, you may or may not. They say they're going to, but
yeah. So the comment is TRICARE, may or may not. So this is one of those things that it's like, last year they pushed it off. They pushed it off a year because all this stuff was supposed to happen last year. And all the employers have been squawking. And the insurance companies were squawking. And my contention is, it starts with a B and ends in you know what. You known about this for 4 years. What do you mean you're not ready? So, anyway, and so I just wanted to bring it up for anyone who is doing payroll that you better be aware that this is coming, etc. And so if you're doing payroll, to be aware of it. Now, one of the things, again, that got brought up at farm school, or at any of the tax courses or whatever, as of July 30th of 2015 on IRC code, we used to be suggesting to our employers that provide X number of dollars to defer the cost of insurance that your people are buying. As of June 30th, you can't do that anymore. So you should have told all your people that can't do that anymore. What it has to be done is you have to raise their wage. That's the only way that you can give additional money to defer the cost of them getting the insurance. You can't just be writing a check to them anymore. Now, one of the things that we have to be aware of is that if you're offering a group health benefit, group health insurance, and someone says, well, I have my spouse is covering it. You have to get this waiver that says you're not going to take it. It has to be signed. And this again was out of I think it was from the farm school. So basically, price of poker just went up this year. For all the stuff additional things that we have to do to cover ACA. I sent this waiver to all my employers. I didn't know which ones were gonna had people opt out, whatever, but the point was they need to be aware of it. They needed to be aware of in fact, if you look, I have a note on that particular is sent to all the employers. Wherever I had that, right here. Send to employers.
This is different when the company offers group insurance based on the form, they sign a waiver also. Is it different than this one?
The question is that, you know, some of the insurance have waiver forms on it. Did you get the waiver form?
Yes.
If you get the waiver form and you can put it in your file, then you're covered. But somebody's going to say, I don't have the waiver form, so, or the employer doesn't have the waiver form. So here's just an example of it.
They should have it.
They have to have something. And again, this goes back to CYA. Okay. Let's get into the next section, and we'll talk about this up until lunch. What do you do? And now again, this is the procedures that I use in my office of what, you know, basically I went and took a seminar, and it's like they called workflow process, and I wasn't sure what they were talking about, so I took the session, and it's like, well, that's what I'm doing. That's just what they call it. I didn't know that's what it was called. So anyway, what happens when I get information in, and so we're going to have to be working on a tax return, we use the white Trivac impossible to tear open, you know, envelopes, and we immediately put one of these labels on it. And then at the very top we put a mailing label on it, which tells, you know, so no writing involved. And so I have printed out all last year's clients, and if I get a new client, then I'm just going to automatically create a label and put it on here, because then you can see is like, well, when did we has the return been scanned? Now these labels peel off, you know, so once we stick them on the envelope, you know, we're using them until they actually hit the mail, and then we take them off, and then all this information is on there about when did you send the federal return, when did you send the state return, when did you send the M1PR, when did you get acknowledged. It's all on one spot. So if we've sent it and we haven't received the acknowledgement, or we're waiting for the 8879, or they haven't paid, everything is in one spot. And then what we do is, when it's getting ready to be mailed, we have a spot here that says, mailed. And so we pull that label off, and we keep that, and we scan it, and then we get rid of them, whatever. So if anybody says, well, you know, you told me it got sent this date and I never received it, et cetera, it's like, well, this is the date that got sent. I mean, if we need to actually go back to that, we have it in the program, but
You filed direct?
no.
No. Well, then why don't you just go to your F9 database and Drake, and there it is?
Yeah, well, the thing is, this is on the mailing envelope.
Oh, that's on
This is on the mailing envelope.
the mail. Oh, you mail all your.
I mail all my returns. Well, now I'm going to change that this year. Because one of the, again, Mr. Bob is causing me to change my procedures. You're required to provide a copy. Didn't say it had to be paper copy. So a lot of us are using portals. Most people, when they get the tax return, that's the last time they look at it. And so the suggestion is, and his suggestion is that you don't ask, you tell them. I haven't figured out what I'm going to tell them, but basically is that if you want a copy, go get it and print it yourself. I'm having a little problem with that, so if I get any pushback, I'll make a copy.
Well, I'm just concerned about the elderly.
The elderly, I'm gonna give them a copy anyway. I mean, because a lot of them don't have computers anyway, so it's the people who've got computers and or whatever, because I used to provide CDs for people. And they go, why do I need a CD if you got the portal? It's like, true. So I'm not doing CDs anymore. But anyway, it's being suggested that put it on the portal, and they have access to it, et cetera. So then, of course, the big question is, what do you put on the portal? Well, we'll talk about Drake has portals. I'm using a particular portal that you get in through my website, and basically what I'm doing is if I got it from you, it's on the portal. If I got a piece of paper from you and I've scanned it, it's up there. So, one of the comments was, well, I only print the federal copy and that's the only thing I put on the portal. I was like, no, I'm going to put all the information that you gave me, which will include your W-2s and 1099s and stuff like that. What I've done for any of my entities is I've created, let's talk about corporation. You've got the tax one. I also create one that says SOS, which is a Secretary of State recording, because it's like, was it done, et cetera. And then I have one that says financials. And then in the financials, I put it in by year. So if they send me the profit and loss or whatever it is that they're sending me for financial statements, it's on there. Now, if I'm doing the accounting under that financial, I again have the year, but then I have the individual months, because now the bank rec is there, the bank statement is there, everything that they've ever given me is there, because they lose it.
What do you do with the peripheral stuff they send that you don't want nor do you need?
Like what?
Oh,
Peripherals she's talking about.
peripheral, garbage, receipts, stuff that we really don't, I get everything.
The notice of next year's social security benefit.
Yeah.
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 that's
The
what-
thing about it is that if it's only something, I only take stuff that deals with the return. I'm not going to keep the receipts. It's like,
Right,
no.
I don't either, but for instance, they drop that stuff off, and I don't have time to go through it until I do the return, and I'm like, what's your $30 crap?
Okay, just wait a little bit and I'll have that on your, okay. Yeah,
The real stuff, like the W-2 form, if you include the stuff on the portal, you shred the W-2s,
I give it, everything that they've given me, they get back.
so you scan it all right away.
On the phone.
The scanning is done before anything is done.
So that what she's talking about, you would give back to them,
I would give back to them.
unless they dropped it off and then gave it or.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're going through stuff, it's like you get the brokerage statement, whatever. A couple of them are double-sided and there's nothing on it. It's like, no, that's not getting scanned. It's not going back, whatever. Okay. Now I've got this envelope, and now we have to do something with it. So what I have in my locked file cabinet is I put flags on them. So if it's something that has to be worked on, I put a green flag on it, because you're not going to be able to do it as soon as you get it. So all the greens go together in, like when they were received. So then you do a return, and now you're waiting for information. That gets blue tagged, and all the blues are together. If we're waiting for the signature, that's a yellow one. If, again, the pink one is for the CD. If I do an extension, it gets a purple. Now, the reason I'm doing that is that now when I open up the drawer, everything, so you get the mail. Well, you got an 8879. Are you going to go through those 100 returns you got sitting there? No, I'm only going to the yellow ones. And since it's got their name on the folder, then I can just flip through those and then grab that one, and now it needs to be worked on. Or, you get it in the mail, you get the additional information. So now I can, put it in there, and I'll generally change it to a green tag. And I put them in the order that they came in. So if I have, time, or I'm, the day to work on other returns, I'll start with the first green ones and work my way back, whatever. Because the biggest problem I had is that, how do you find out where this return is? And so it's all in one spot. Now again, I'm a one-man shop. If you've got more than one person, whatever, how do you keep track of where that stuff is?
Which pile on the floor?
Which pile that better not be on the floor is there? So anyway, that's how I've done it. Now,
Bruce,
yeah.
you don't use status?
Nope. Because the thing about it is that I want to, okay, back up. This is actually part of that. I only do appointments Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. The rest of the time I'm still in the office working, but those are the only 3 days that they can get in for appointments. So on those other days that I'm working, now I can go to the green ones, or the blue ones that I've changed to green, et cetera, et cetera. So, and all these files are put away as soon as I'm done with them. Everybody has a to-do list. We all have to-do lists. I attended a national conference in Chicago, and Jim Collins was saying, do you have a do not do list? And I was sitting next to my the guy who's the president of our corporation for Boys and Girls Club, and he goes, yep, got that. And so I said, I'd never heard of that. So I asked Brian, I said, okay, explain why you have a do not do list and what happened to be on there. And his comment was, one of the primary ones is he owns 9 Jimmy Johns. And he said, I found out through time, I do not hire outside people for the manager. Just a plain do not do. So I went down, and my do not do list is, because I'm trying to cut back, no new clients. No appointments by phone. On my website, I do take appointments by phone, but if they have the ability, and I know they can do appointments on the website, you go to the website. Because how many times have you gone through and tried to make an appointment, and it takes you 10 minutes because they can't figure out what day they're going to do it. And it's like, no, go to the website. And the big one here for you, Judy, and no grocery bags.
Oh, yeah, I don't take.
No grocery bags.
No bottles.
Other things I have on here is I do not e-file returns from non-clients. This is my do not do list. Do not quote fees over the phone. Set up an appointment. How many times have you got burnt and they said, well, I sold 10 shares of stock and whatever, and you give them a price, and they come in as, they sold 10 shares of stock, but it's 1 of this and 2 of this and whatever, and it's like a long list. And the big one that there is starting to be an issue is do not answer questions over the phone, even your own clients. Set up appointment. The IRS has issued penalties for, and I don't know what the reasoning was, but this has been reported. Somebody gave an answer over the phone, obviously it was probably wrong, and they got major penalty. I don't know why. I just know that was being reported. So basically they say, do not answer questions over the phone. Tell them to set up an appointment. You can answer questions by email, but you better be saving that email because it's subject to interpretation. Merle. The question was, ever done an interview by Skype? I haven't gotten that far, but I think that's, kind of where we're gonna need to be going, especially with our clients who are out of state, out of the country. I mean, because I have a couple in China and all over, whatever, so.
Somebody out of state, this guy should be aware.
Okay, now this is, people would question why I have this in office procedures. This is part of the Drake setup. I don't even know, do I have it in your return? It may not have been in there. So I'm going to tell you. Okay, when you go to the setup, if you go to the forms and schedules, there's a box that you can check that says, always show me the reason why if they should be eligible for EIC. And it didn't show up. That's under options, under forms and schedules. And then the other thing is the Form 8879 bank account. You can set that it only gives you the last 4 digits. Now, one of the things I did, and we'll talk about it here in a minute, is I sent an email to Mr. Drake, to Phil, and said, if I'm printing out a tax return to be mailed to a client, not to be mailed into the IRS, I want the ability to be able to redact the Social Security numbers, the EFIN numbers, and the PTINs. I haven't received a word yet. But that was my deal. It's like, why can't I do that? You're allowing the redaction here of the bank account. Why can't you do that on the, you should be able on the printing screen, because this is not going to IRS or Minnesota or whoever. It's only for the client. And it's going in the mail. And the IRS is real concerned about identity theft. We need to be concerned about it. Now, if you go to the administrative flag or tab, one of the things that I do, you have the ability to mark globally things that you want to make sure you get asked on when you do a tax return. So when I bring it up on client the first page, some of the things I want to know. I want to know the email for the taxpayer and the spouse. I want to know what the school, sorry, Michael, you got to fix that. One of the problems we have is a lot of people do M1PRs after the season, okay? And a lot of times we don't get the property tax statement. So what I've done is I said, well, we're going to do them, so we'll go get them. So now you have to have the ID numbers. The thing about it is that the only place the ID number is on the M1PR. The thing about it is there's no way of getting a printout of all those numbers. So if you go here to the school district, Minnesota doesn't use school district numbers. So I put it in there exactly how the county wants it entered when you go to look for it. Some counties say, I want periods. Some counties say, I want dashes. Some counties say, scrunch them all together. So what does that county want in order to get the information? So you can create a report that says, give me their names, their school district, the county, and then one of the things I do over here under the miscellaneous code, I say, give me the miscellaneous, I'll show you that here in a second, miscellaneous code 2, which says, what's the status of their M1PRs? I do that after the season. So if it says I need this, and I don't have majority of the time you don't have the property tax statement, then I just have the property tax statement or the list, give it to a minion, don't tell Sharon I said that, and say, go get it. And so then they go and it's all done, and I basically put this on export it to an Excel spreadsheet and break it down by county. So then you don't have, 3 pages or 4 pages of all run together and you're jumping from county to county.
If you do them, do you delete the code there, or the ID numbers, or do you leave that in?
I always leave the ID number in there. Now, the question is, do we delete it? So let me get down here to further down. And again, you can see, one of the things that Drake has added this year, and we'll get to that here in a second, is answer no to Schedule B Part 3 questions. You always had to go to the B to the enter screen and hit F3 and go no, 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 and then go on. Now you can just, if they don't have a foreign bank account, you can just click no here and go on, which is what they should have had. So now to your answer, Greg, is that I use all these miscellaneous codes, and I haven't put them in here, but basically with these miscellaneous codes is code 1 is health insurance. Who paid for it? You can go and set up any of these miscellaneous codes. You have to be in the administrative portion, and so for me, for code 1 is health insurance. Who paid for it? So is it now these are my subcategories: the company, the individual paid for it, the health exchange, Medicare, or their parents. Now I haven't run into the TRICARE or any of those things, so I haven't added that to here. But that's basically you can do as many as you want. Company, individual, health exchange, Medicare, and parents. Sorry, I may not have said Medicare. So basically, I want to be able to run a report at the end of the year, and actually there's one that should be on here that's not that I printed out here. No insurance. So if I go and click no insurance, I know I got to go over and do the what's the penalty? The shared responsibility. The man has it on his fingertips. So I've added that, and I forgot to put it on here. Now, in miscellaneous code 2 is where I put M1PR information. Now, so what I do is, if it's a PR, that means they need the M1PR. CRP, they need the rent credit. And if I've completed it because they brought it in early or whatever, I have a done, completed M1PR. And then a couple other ones is do not qualify because whatever, income too high or whatever. And then I had to create a not applicable, especially if they're dependent, whatever. It's like, well, we're looking for that, you didn't fill out that screen. And then I also have one that's called OS because they're another state resident. So even though they may be part of your Minnesota and you're doing that, whatever, I still want to be able to put on here, they don't qualify, and it's because they're from another state.
Those will be blank when you start the next year's student.
No, yes, they should be blank when you bring them over.
That's the problem, because when you go onto that M1PR, you gotta change those, because if we don't go back and I use all of those, and actually I use almost exactly the same one you had.
Great.
Except I have it in code 3 rather than 2, but they seem to carry over from one year to the next, so some days if we have one called done, meaning we did it, but I don't file them with the regular one, I file them all at the end.
Correct.
And they carry forward, and if it says done.
Well, the thing that is when you do the carryover, it asks, do you want the miscellaneous screens?
Oh, then that's probably my fault.
So just don't click that one. Okay? Yeah. Well, anyway, then the third box I use, which is one of the reasons why I want it carried over, is what kind of, how much was your refund? How much was your M1PR refund? Because you know you have to go onto the Schedule A and net it. So the thing that is that I don't want to have to be going into last year and say, well, you know, this is what it should be, et cetera, et cetera. I want the number right there. And then I can just ask, did you get the $350? And then we can go and net it on Schedule A. Okay, let me just finish this section, then we'll go on. Number 4 is, how did I get the return? I mean, was it through an appointment? Was it mailed in? Was it through the portal? Did they drop it off? And I do have one here for off-site, because I do have a couple elderly clients that can't get out that I will go see. So it's like, well, how did we do it? And again, this is just to let me know that if it was an appointment, it's like, well, where's the paperwork, etc. So this is just, you know, things that I'm using. Then the last one I use up there is the organizer. We're sending out organizers. How did you send it? Did we mail it, or is it through the portal? The last couple of things here that we have to talk about on setup, make sure you go and edit your DCN numbers. Otherwise, it'll start from 0. If you go and do the rollover and you say, up my pricing by X%, it gives you a printout that says, these following forms have no prices. And it'll give you a list. And you can print it out, and most of them are the 3115s or whatever. So, and then you need to go and bring your letters forward from last year. If you had specialized letters that you created and you want to bring them forward, you have to go in and say, bring them forward. You know, so if there's a date on there, it'll automatically update it and say, you know, this is your 2015 return. Now, one of the things I also said to Phil, say, Phil, on the screen for communication editor, you've got 20 spots. Well, I mean, some of them are taken up with, you know, engagement letters and stuff like that. But basically, there's 15 or 16 that you could edit. Okay, if that's the case, how come when I go to the miscellaneous screen for letters, I can only do 10? You're allowing me to do extra on this communication editor, but you're not allowing me to pick it up on the tax return. And corporations are only allowing you to do 5, and yet there's whatever. So I said, you have to fix that. Last thing, printer setup, you got to make sure that you run your, whatever your current printers are, just don't, I mean, when you bring this forward, it says you have to do the test. It just, not assuming. And then, how many people are doing electronic signatures through the keypads? We can talk about that. Then you have to set that up. One of the things when you first load the program is there was this setup assistant. That's, you know, so as soon as you go and do a couple things, then it turns it green. Well, the big question is, how do I get back to it? Because as soon as you do the first one, then it disappears. So the setup assistance is under the help screen. So if you go to the help screen, you can go down and find the setup assistance, and then you can go and look and see, oh, I haven't completed these particular items. Does that answer your question, Judy? Okay. Lunch? Okay. We're going to lunch. This is a working lunch, so as soon as we get everybody back in here, then we will continue on, because, you know, fortunately we have decent weather, but we still want to get you out of here. So, yeah, you have to go through the right door. Management said the right door.